Conversation with Lady T and JT. It's time for Candid Conversation. Conversation with Lady T and JT. Check out the show. Check it out. It's time for Candid Conversation. Conversation with Lady T and JT. It's time for Candid Conversation. Conversation with Lady T and JT. Check out the show. Check it out.
Well, good evening and welcome to another Candid Conversation. I'm your host, Lady T, and I have with me our girl, JT is in the building. JT, what's going on, sis?
Girl, it's Tuesday. I'm feeling good. You're looking good, and I am excited about today's show.
So am I, girl. I'm just telling you, if you haven't already gotten the notice, we have an amazing man of God with us on today. We have been trying to get his people to call our people call his people, just get him on. He finally made it, and he is here today. So go ahead and tag a friend. Let them know Candid Conversations is on with the Lester Raeford, aka the sports pastor. Hey, I'm here for him today. Welcome. That's our brother, y'all. We've been knowing Lester for many years. We had the privilege to attend church together, and we're just so excited that you took time out to come here and share with us on today. So much going on out there, and I know we get ready to have a candid conversation.
Yes.
If you don't know, we're on Oak 93.5 FM on your radio dial or right here on Facebook. Hey, Janelle, girl, there's our VIP, honey. If nobody else going to do it, Janelle's going to do it. She's going to be here faithfully every Tuesday, and we appreciate you, sis. Jay, let's talk about our guest and what we're going to talk about on today.
Yes, so many of you all know and follow Lester Raeford, better known as the sports pastor, I beg your pardon, on his phenomenal podcast and radio show, formerly known as Common Sense with Les on 93.3 The Storm. And so he has a very humorous yet insightful and interesting take on sports. And so I am familiar with football because I was a proud football mom, but there are certain things I don't understand. So ladies, we invited the sports pastor on today to talk to us, to kind of help us make sense of some of the things that we're seeing in the news, and then some of the things that's just straight nonsense that we don't understand, and we just needed a man's take on it.
Yes, right. Yes. Welcome, Lester.
Hey, how you doing?
Listeners, a little about yourself.
Okay, but first, before I do that, your name is Lady T. I got to get this in. I've been down to do this again. Lady T is busting out on the phone. Swing it. I had to get that in. Let me get that in first.
Thank you so much for that.
See, y'all too young. That's Tina Marie back. That was in the 70s, guys. We won't say it then, so don't judge us.
It's okay. And we know Tina Marie.
Well, nowadays, with what we hear in church, why not bring Rick James in there? That's another conversation. Why not bring Rick in, huh? But no, I am honored to be on here today with you young ladies, my sisters. I love both of you. You girls, young ladies have a sweet spirit. And what it is we do, we have a show called God's Take. And what we do on God's Take, it was formerly Common Sense with Les. But what we do with God's Take, because of the climate, socially and politically, and even spiritually, religiously, you got the left's take, you got the right's take, you got black's take, you got white, men, women, Fox, ABC, MSNBC. We've heard their takes. We need to know what God's take is. What's God's take? Because we believe that at the end of the day, There will no longer be a Democrat or Republican party. There will be no right and no left. The only thing that will be standing in the end is the word of God. Your flower fadeth, the grass wither, but the word of our God shall stand forever. So that's the take we need to be taking right there. And that's what my show is about. And it deals with sports, politics, spiritual matters. There's a whole lot going on in every arena, with the sports, with the politics, another church scandal. So there's a whole lot. And instead of going on the media, we pull this thing into scripture. Let's dig into the Bible and see what God has to say. So that's where the sports pastor comes in.
I like it. That's great. That's great. And you said it's on it's on Facebook as well as
it's not on Facebook. It's on We Care Radio. It's on We Care Radio, and this is good because we're actually transitioning. I'm going to tell you guys some good news. We're actually going to be transitioning to television in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So
congratulations.
So we got to get y'all on so we can sing Lady T. Well, you can be Lady T. I'm gonna be Rick James.
I am here for it. Y'all don't know we had a little praise and worship service before we're live today, y'all. We had a whole little thing going on. You're not gonna be in the room with a Raeford and not sing anyway.
Oh, God bless you.
Well, we're excited, like you said, to have you on today. I think JT gave us some things that we're going to be talking about, because there's some things in the news, and you can probably give us a different type of insight on it. Specifically, JT, now you get me right here, because I told you I don't know much about what's going on, but with Travis Hunter and his fiance, and can you tell people who Travis Hunter is, and what's the scandal? What's the big news about Travis Hunter?
Well, Travis Hunter, he's the Heisman Trophy winner, 2024 Heisman Trophy winner. Got it. Deion Sanders recruited. Remarkable story outside of all the other things. This guy was the #1 recruit in the country, and was slated to go to Florida State. However, Deion Sanders was able to pry him away from Florida State to bring him to an HBCU, Jackson State. So that was huge in and of itself. That does not happen. But he followed Deion Sanders to Jackson State and then to Colorado. And then he parlayed that success into his Heisman Trophy campaign this year. And he was the #2 pick in the draft this year, in the NFL draft. And I know we're going to get to the draft with Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders' son, shortly. But he was the #2 pick in the draft. But he's come under scrutiny because of, I guess, the choice he made to marry. And I won't touch that because I like to let people marry who they want to marry, okay? I like to do that. There's always two sides. However, there are some red flags there. There has been some things that have been done, and there's been some things that he has decided to do that went against what Coach Prime told him. For one, he just got married to the young lady without a prenup. Although I applaud him, listen, I applaud him as a young man. When you got these guys in the NFL that's jumping from bed to bed, running from this woman to this woman, got whole families on both sides of the town, multiple paternity suits going on. I applaud him that he wanted to commit to the woman he loved. Now, it remains to be seen if she was the right woman or not, but he did choose not to sign a prenup, and that's what's got everyone in an uproar, because she has done some things on social media that would lead many to question whether or not she's really committed to a marriage this young.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay.
And to that point, I'm gonna call him Coach Raeford, sports pastor Raeford. To that point, you know, I think it was when and I can't remember if it was when he was getting his Heisman Trophy or he was getting drafted. No, it was a meet and greet with his fans, and just how stoic she was, and just not wanting to, you know, mingle with the people who are buying his jerseys, you know, who are affording them this lifestyle, because she's a benefactor of that lifestyle. Some of the things that we saw on social media, which again, I don't know this young lady from a can of paint, this is just an observation, but some of the things that we saw was that she wasn't being supportive And oftentimes when we think about, you know, men in these high profile men who are in the NFL, who are in the NBA, if you're a wag, a wife and a girlfriend, or a significant other, you know, role is to be quiet, be out the way, be supportive, and just do whatever you are asked to do. But she was definitely going against that trend and kind of making demands as a girlfriend. I think that was what was really the biggest red flag. And I know as a mother, if I was his mother, that would have been a little upsetting to me and very off-putting, just to be honest.
Yes, and I would piggyback on that and also throw in his last game at Colorado against Oklahoma State. They, you know, big game. He broke records, did all of that, and she appeared to shy away from him when he was trying to embrace her. If I can put on the pastor part of the sports pastor now, the preacher in me, a lot of this, young ladies, you know what it is? A lot of this is that these young women, they don't have the mothers in the church play roles in the women that I grew up with. They play roles. The mothers would teach women how to dress. They would teach them how to cook. They would teach them how to carry themselves as women. And even if they wanted to show, some of us have mothers at home that would do that. But in this generation, the church mothers aren't raising these young ladies. Basketball wives is.
Come on here.
Real love and hip hop is.
Yeah.
The twerks are. That's who are raising. So there's somewhat a sense of entitlement. Right. And at the same time, I'm a woman, hear me roar. I don't need a man. So a lot of them, they don't want to be necessarily a wife, but they want the benefits of a husband who's rich. Yeah, that's the issue.
Good point.
That's the issue. They don't want the benefit of that, of submitting and supporting them, like you said, but they want the benefits of that husband. And this has something to do with the culture. So, you know, that deservedly so. She got some pushback on that, and she should have been. And then the thing is, again, we got to ask ourselves, who's taught her? Who's in her ear?
Yes.
You know, who's pulled her? Who's willing to pull her aside and say, listen, this ain't how you protect your man. This ain't how you play the role of a wife. Even if you're just a janitor at a school, you don't do your husband like that. You know, this ain't the role. But this generation, they don't want to be wives. They don't want to be mothers. And a lot of them want to be men. That's another conversation. Oh. They don't want to be. They don't want that. They don't want that. They don't want us to protect them and provide for them and to procreate with them. They want to be us.
And do you feel like sometimes, you know, the defense to that we see a lot from that statement is, oh, they're put in that position to have to be the masculine. They are put in that position to have to operate in that position. You know, I think it's all systematic, but I agree with you. But sometimes women, they feel like, oh, you know, he's not being the man, so I gotta pay the rent, buy the food, cook the food.
Absolutely, and that puts the onus on us. We're not exempt, because a lot of this has happened because we have been absent. Again, for those who are listening, I'm always going to have a biblical worldview henceforth to show God's take. If you look in the Bible, in Exodus, all the way back in Exodus, the Old Testament, Pharaoh put out the decree: if he be a Hebrew male, kill him dead. Mm-hmm. In other words, he wanted to remove the male presence from the equation. That edict is still out in 2025. There are things that are being done to remove us as men from the equation. I talked about women who want to be men. There are some men who want to be women.
Come on.
They want to be women. They don't want to lead. They don't want to take care of a family. They want somebody to take care of them. Yes. So a lot of times the woman had to go ahead and say, look, I got to get this done. I lived through that. You know, my mom and dad split up early, and I saw that. But when we go from a biblical perspective, it is the man's job to protect, provide, and procreate. And it is the woman's job to be a helper, a helpmeet. That is not something to take lightly. That does not mean she's less than, because trust me, as a man, we need our women. Trust me. Don't get me wrong. It's a man's world. It won't mean nothing. Trust me. Hey, I don't believe that lie. I live in North Carolina, not San Francisco. I need more. I need
Point made, point taken, and I agree with you. So, and since you said that, you can also kind of address men in women's sports. Do you see a lot of that?
It's amazing. Lady T, it's amazing you said that, because before we came on, I've been on 3 shows today discussing the controversy, the pushback between Riley Gaines and Simone Biles. Simone Biles, of course, that's the 11-time Olympic gold medalist. And before I say this, she is the best that ever done it. It's not even close. I thought Mary Lou Retton was. For those of you who remember who she was, way back in 1984 when the Olympics was in Los Angeles, was Simone Biles. She's come in and she's crushed all of them. Mary Lou Retton, Shannon Miller, Kim Zmeskal. She has shattered all of their records. And Riley Gaines, of course, she came to fame because she is the one who has the lawsuit, was a part of the class action lawsuit against the NCAA when she had to compete against Leah Thomas, who is born William Thomas, in a swim meet while she was in college. And what happened, things got a little bit hot because of what happened Friday in a state high school softball game in Minnesota. The young lady, the young man, the transgender athlete, her name, please bear with me, it's confusing, I know. He was born a male, but he goes now by the name of Marissa Roethlisberger, I think that's the name. Well, anyway, he's a male pitcher that plays softball against females, and he's been dominant. Over 36 innings, he's given up like 3 hits. He's basically unhittable. And the team won. Of course, they're going to win. They got him in. He's about 6 feet tall, almost 200 pounds, big guy. His teammates, I mean, looking at it, it would be like the women at Upper Room taking a picture with Shaq. That's what it looked like. All these women down here, and then Shaq went. That's what it looked like. Well, anyway, he played, he dominated, and Riley Gaines came out on Twitter, and she voiced her displeasure at it. She did not like it. And then Simone Biles responded. She responded to Riley Gaines and said, "You must be sick. You are sick. We should all be supporting transgender athletes and not bullying them." See, that's the thing now. If you don't agree with them, that's called bullying.
Right.
And she's gone back and forth. And from what I understand, just breaking news about an hour ago, she posted an apology to Riley Gaines, Simone Biles, because sponsors got involved. The backlash was great. And for those of you who don't know, Simone Biles was also a part of a lawsuit against Dr. Larry Nassar, who was committing, did you hear about that? He was committing sexual abuse. He was a doctor that was sexually abusing women during their physicals. Well, if you believe that, how in God's name can you think it's okay for a man to not only compete against women, but share the shower with them? I mean, get in there and share the restroom with them. It's not good. It's not good. No. Now, we know that's a good point. I see Janelle on here. That's a good point. She talking about the coins, because we know Simone Biles and the rest of them, they get paid to say this. They get to pay. They get paid. Sponsors, look, you got to say this. You got to say this. I understand that. But nonetheless, I think we need to value the safety of our women and our kids, our children, over money and transgender feelings, the feelings of them, because it's not fair. It's not a fair fight. It's not a fair fight. Not a fair fight at all. So I'm against that. And that is one of the things that we're going to be discussing actually on God's Take for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So you young ladies, make sure you come on. Okay. And we're going to have a panel of women, some former athletes, and we're going to get in there. We're going to talk about it. How do y'all feel about that? How do you feel about that? How would you feel with a stranger coming in the bathroom with you? He has on the skirt and the wigs, but his voice is deeper than Barry White's. How would you feel?
Right. Well, I can tell you, because that has been my experience. I was actually at work and I was going to the restroom, a public restroom outside of our suite, and I saw a man coming out of the women's bathroom, and it startled me. It literally rattled me because as I was walking in, he was coming out. And I literally froze because when a woman is going, or anyone for that matter, is going to the bathroom, you know, that's the first of all, I didn't expect to see that, and secondly, that, you know, that's a very vulnerable state to be in. To think I got to go relieve myself, and oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting this. So it was beyond uncomfortable for me, so much so that I ended up packing my stuff up and going home.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And just to give you some perspective, this is the common sense portion of God's take, which is why I like to tie them together. Common sense. Right now, if a man were to expose himself in public, he would be arrested. He will be arrested for indecency.
That's right.
However, he can expose himself in a shower with a woman as long as he claims that he self-identifies with the woman and nothing will happen. Make it make sense.
Oh my gosh.
Make it make sense. He can expose himself.
No sense at all.
Yeah. He can expose himself. And this thing that bothers me, and I hope I don't lose your audience here, is that they keep putting a black woman's face with this mess. That's what bothers me. Simone Biles, black. Don Staley, when asked last year, when South Carolina won the national championship in 2024, when they beat Caitlin Clark and Iowa, you know, do you think trans men should be able to play women's basketball? She said yes. You know, Michelle Obama just did an interview with Dwayne Wade's son, who transitioned from Zion Wade to Zaya Wade, and was saying she applauded. It's brave. So I get offended because of them putting the black woman as the face of this movement. That's the face of this movement. And we know that it's marketing. We know what the trick really is. Wink, wink behind closed doors. It's political. No, I am not on board with that. And I am actually going to have on my show, and I want you young ladies to make sure you pay attention to this. A young man in Virginia, I won't mention his name because I don't want to do that yet until he's on the show and I can present him properly. But his daughter was assaulted in a restroom by a transgender student at school. She was sodomized. Okay, watch this. The school did not notify the authorities. They didn't do anything. They allowed him to go to another school in the district, and he did the exact same thing. No. And when the daddy approached the school board, they arrested the father. They arrested the dad. So we're going to bring him on, and we're going to let him tell his story. But you know what a sports pastor saying. You already know. No, I am not on board. I'm not on board. And in their defense, those who I know who are part of the LGBTQ community, they agree. No, that shouldn't be going on. Now, you know it's bad when they can do it and the preachers are silent. But they're saying, no, this is too much. They're saying this is too much. So, not to go too deep, I'll back up a little bit. But it's a serious situation that we got going on here. And my fear is that black young lady who's grown up in the hood and her only ticket to college is track and field, and she shows up and she got to run against the next Carl Lewis.
That's not fair.
That's not fair at all. Or she shows up and she's the next Cheryl Miller or Candace Parker or Caitlin Clark or whatever, and she shows up and she has to play against Shaq. That's not fair. And she loses a scholarship. She loses visibility. You know, that's what we have to look at, the long game. This ain't good. This ain't good. Mm-mm.
And I think the way you just explained it, if our people knew, you know, that how voting matters and matters what these people believe in, you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people don't go any further. They don't dig deeper than, either who they don't like or, you know.
They don't. It's what I like to call the systematic indoctrination.
Systematic, yeah.
If you know, as a person who works in media that sees what goes on before that story is presented to the public, sometimes it's clipped, snipped, and massaged to fit a narrative, or they won't even put it out at all. They won't even say, we won't even talk about that. So they, you know, the public gets what the media feeds them.
That's right.
Whatever
That's
they
right.
feed them. Whatever they feed them. You know, we don't do research. We don't dig and say, wait a minute, this don't make any sense. Yeah. Until they get violated, until it comes to their and knocks on their door, and they're like, yeah. My mom almost had that happen with her at Target, Janet. The same thing you had. She was at Target and went to the bathroom, and there was a transgender female, a man, came there. My mom she's like, Lord, is that a man? Lord, see.
Oh man.
Yeah. My mama.
Think about it.
Now God knows, y'all. God knows.
See, that's hard.
See, now I'm gonna have to go. Now I'm going to jail. No, I am. So y'all put.
Oh, I know. As you should.
No, we need you, sports pastor. Don't go to jail.
Okay, Janet. But that's my mama now, Janet. But
that's
let's pray for me. We got to pray.
Gotta do what you gotta do, love. We love our parents, and that's just you can think of that the same way you can think of your 2-year-old, your 3-year-old, your 4-year-old, your 5-year-old.
Especially when they're elders. When they're elders, yeah. But when they're elders,
and that's a horrible thing. So yeah, it pays for us to do our research and to, like you said, read, and don't just listen to, believe everything they are. Oh my gosh, people believe everything they hear in the media.
If it's on the internet, it must be true.
I don't know.
It's got to be true.
It's got to be true. It's on the internet. But the Bible says this. I know what the Bible says, but they said this on The
View. And now look, they can tear down the Bible at all now. It really is gonna be bad now because they're trying to prove the Bible to be wrong. So now
absolutely.
It's a mess.
Absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
But I will say, people are no longer getting their news from news agencies. They're getting their news from social media. People are going to the shade room instead of CNN and Fox News.
That's right.
So there is something to be said about how information is disseminated.
Mm-hmm. It is. And what they have to know is that most of the rich elites that own these stations, they are not only do they have an antithetical biblical view, but I did a teaching about this about 3 years ago about how the baby boomers, those who were born not born, but were in college during the 60s, that social era, it was politically charged. You had a lot of political and socially charged figures, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, but you also had Anton LaVey, who started the Church of Satan, Louise Hepner, who was declared the Witch of Los Angeles in 1969, and Helter Skelter. A lot of these individuals who own the stations, they were birthed out of those movements. So we don't even know that. That's why they're not. That's why you can't say Jesus' name on certain shows like The View. You can't say his name on there. That's why when you listen to some of these shows on CNN and even Fox, I'm not going to let them off the hook. A lot of them, they have an antithetical biblical view. And even the people that they bring in to talk to, they're not real Christians. They have a different version of Christians. There's two types. There's the real Christianity, and then there's the Hollywood Christianity. The biblical Christianity has standards. The Hollywood kind, you can cuss, have sex on tape, cuss people out, smoke weed, get drunk, and still lead praise and worship at your church. That's the Hollywood Christianity. So that we're up against that right now. So to get your news from those stations, you're not really getting information. You're getting conformed. You're getting conformed to believe and to accept a certain narrative and to be desensitized into accepting wickedness and injustice. And I'm gonna stop there because I felt the preach coming.
I mean, you are the sports pastor.
Come on here.
Sure.
For real?
Sure.
Okay, now if I shout, y'all got to tell me to go ahead because I don't like
all right.
But you got to say, go ahead now.
Okay.
You know we your amen corner.
Okay.
We be your amen corner.
Okay.
Again today. But look, Jay, it's something else going on in the news. Well, in the news, in social media, in those social media streets, whatever, however you want to say it. But about Deion Sanders, Jay, what's going on with that?
Listen, okay, so sports pastor, common sense with Liz, God's take, help me out. Because I don't understand. How did my nephew, Shedeur Sanders, get in the 5th round? He's talented. You know, I don't understand. So I need you to help me out.
Well, first of all, JT and Tina Marie, let me get this out the way. First of all, Shedeur Sanders is very talented. Very talented. I want to kill one narrative that's been put out. It had nothing to do with race. Let's get that out the way first.
All right.
Because I had to go on shows and we went toe to toe. It had nothing to do with race because since 2019, we have seen 8 black quarterbacks picked in the 1st round.
Okay.
8 in the 1st round. And let me think. 2019 was Kyler Murray. 2023, Bryce Young. 2024, Caleb Williams. 2025 was Cam Ward. 4 of those quarterbacks went number 1 overall. Okay? And then in the case of last year, number 1 was black and number 2 was black. Jaden Daniels went 2nd to my team, Washington. And then in 2023, the same thing happened. Bryce Young, right down the road in Charlotte, North Carolina, for the Carolina Panthers. Number 2, C.J. Stroud. They both were black. Throw in Trey Young, who went number 3 overall in the 2022 draft to the San Francisco 49ers. So it was not a black thing. What it was, I'm going to tell you what it was, and I'm going to try to put this as diplomatic as I can.
Okay.
Shedeur Sanders overplayed his hand. And I think that's what it was. He overplayed his hand. He from what I was told, because during the draft, and I went live and talked about this, some of the teams that I talked about who was in the front offices of the teams that were up front that were prepared to pick him. He didn't interview well. He seemed disinterested when he went there. And in his defense, a lot of players do that when they don't want to go to a certain team. Okay. If they don't want to go to the Cleveland Browns, they'll be like, man, they'll be disinterested because they don't want the Browns to draft him. In fact, his dad did that in 1989, Deion Sanders, when he came out in that same draft with Troy Aikman, Barry Sanders, and the rest of them. But what happened is when Deion Sanders came out, the New York Giants wanted to pick him. And Deion Sanders just promptly asked them, when y'all drafting? They said, we're drafting 20. If he said, oh, man, I'll be gone by then. I ain't even showing up for that interview. But that's Deion Sanders. That is a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent, a player that has returned a kick for a touchdown and hit a home run in the major leagues on the same day. We'll never see that again. That's not who Shedeur is. That's not who Shedeur is. Shedeur is a talent, but he has a lot of flaws. In his 2 years at Colorado, he never beat a top 20 team. That's first. Never beat one. Last year, when he played against a rookie, freshman, and these are things that were discussed with me. Dylan Raiola, he's a kid down there in Nebraska. He's going to be coming out next year. He's really good. He outplayed Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur Sanders was sacked 8 times in that game. When he played against a top 10 team, Oregon, the quarterback that was drafted right before him, Dylan Gabriel, on the same team, he was sacked 7 times and they lost 56-7. And when he played against Cam Ward, the first overall quarterback who was picked out of Washington State to the Titans, they lost 56-14. So he's got some warts. However, with all that being said, he should not have failed to the 5th round. He should not have failed. I really thought, and I said this a week before the draft, I thought that Pittsburgh would take a look at him. But Mike Tomlin ain't all about them Rolls Royces. No, you better come to work. You better come to work. You don't go to Pittsburgh, no Rolls Royce and diamond. Ask Antonio Brown. They'll get you out of town. You come to Pittsburgh with your boots on and a pickup truck ready to go to work. That's that climate there. The good news is he's with Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland, who has a West Coast offense that is perfect for Shedeur Sanders' skill set. It's going to be perfect. He's got a good situation there. Now, if he can play, all questions are about to be answered now. I think the guy can play. I definitely am a fan of Shedeur Sanders. And I definitely don't think he should have dropped to the 5th round, but I understand why it happened.
Well, I'll tell you, I was very disappointed. I could not believe that happened. And, you know, again, I am not the enthusiast as you are. I didn't know all those stats. I just knew that his father turned around the program at Colorado. People were excited to see the games, which I think that holds value. I just, with his talent, I just didn't understand 5th round Cleveland Browns.
Right.
Yeah, well, see, Janet, let me put it this way. This is the best way. I'm going to give you 2 examples.
Okay.
One is the church world, and then 2 is the shopping world.
Okay.
Let's talk about the church world first. We look when we look for a person to come in and preach, that's different from looking at a person to come in and pastor.
That's true.
Oh, that's good too.
See, the preacher that comes in and preach, make a shout, raises off, and go home. But the pastor now becomes the face of your ministry. So everything has got to be factored in. We look at everything. The preacher, they come in and then they go home. But the pastor, he oftentimes he's going to bury your loved ones. He's going to marry your daughters and children, christen your babies, your grandbabies, counsel you, you know, when you're going through some things in life. So you look at that different. In the NFL, a player that's just like a running back or a wide receiver, he's not the face of a franchise. And again, what was told to me was that they didn't know if Shedeur wanted to be the face of a franchise or a celebrity. They didn't know that. The gold watches, the this and that. And I get it. That's this generation. That's this generation. And he's Deion Sanders' son. That's why I say he may have overplayed his hand, because Deion can do it. That's Deion. Shedeur's not Deion. Okay, God bless him. But we'll never see Deion again. And then the second one, when you're shopping, let's put it this way. You young ladies, I've seen you dress at church. Both of you dress real nice.
Thank you.
Just imagine you going to Dillard's and they got you see a shoe there, a set of shoes that you like. And the shoes are nice. And then right before you get ready to buy them, you see a tab on your phone that says, Saks having a 50% off sale on tomorrow. Are you going to buy your shoes then, or are you going to wait for Saks to see what they may have to offer? Because you may get a better shoe at a better deal. So you never know. I say that to say this. Shedeur Sanders happened to have those 2 things going against him. First, he overplayed his hand. And then next year is a loaded quarterback draft. That's the thing nobody talks about. There's a kid down there in South Carolina named Lenore Sellers. He's going to go in the 1st round. There's another kid at LSU named Garrett Nussmeier. He's going to go in the 1st round. There's another kid down there at Penn State, Drew Allers. He's going to go in the 1st round. And then, not to mention, you guessed it, another Manning, Arch Manning, Peyton Manning, and Eli Manning's nephew comes out next year. So a lot of teams are saying, let us just hold back like you would hold back on those shoes at Dillard's, and let's just wait, because it's going to be a deeper draft with less question marks, and we'll get a good quarterback. We may get the quarterback that we want next year. But like I said, he's got a golden opportunity. The quarterback situation in Cleveland is terrible. It's terrible. They got Deshaun Watson, who has not been himself since those allegations has taken place. They got Joe Flacco, who was in school with me. And when I say look, me, not technically, but he's that old. He's been around for a long time. And then you got Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett, quarterbacks who I think Shedeur can beat. So if he can play, which I think he will, he's got a golden opportunity with Kevin Stefanski's system there, especially when you look at Brock Purdy from the 49ers, who was the last player picked in the draft. He went later than Shedeur, but he just signed a $200 million contract. So it's all is not lost. All is not lost. I just want us, as although we love him, we're supporting him. Let him develop. Let him develop. I don't want him to go in there thinking he has to be the guy. Let the game come to you. It's going to happen. He's got talent, but I don't want him to come in there and think he has something to prove. No, you want to play with the chip, but let's be mindful that you want a long career. You don't want to just be a flash in the pan like RG3. You want a long, extensive career. And I think Deion Sanders, he gonna get him right. He gonna get him right. He gonna get him right. And I saw Janelle just say something in the comments.
Jay, can you see those comments, Janet?
They didn't want him.
She said that they did it.
Yeah, he's had a good camp. Yeah, he's had a good camp so far. But another thing that we have to consider as well is that his mentor didn't draft him, and they really needed a quarterback. His mentor was Tom Brady. So when Tom Brady said, hands off, and they need a quarterback, trust me, they needed a quarterback. So it's not necessarily an indictment that he failed to the 5th round. It's about need. It's about being the face of the quarterback. But I will say this. He should have gone before Tyler Shook, who the Saints took at number 40 in the 2nd round. He should have gone before that guy. But that guy had he had a better senior day. He had a better senior day. But again, on the other hand, I know I'm sounding a little bit redundant here. Shedeur elected not to participate in the Senior Bowl, so they didn't get to see him. Tyler Shook was there. They saw him and they drafted him.
Wow.
So Pastor Les, are you saying that his attitude had a lot to do with him going to the 5th round?
Oh God, see, Lord, that was a tough question. Now I'm gonna look like the bad guy.
No, we having a candid conversation.
What I'm saying, according to my sources, that's what you gotta look at something, Janet and Lady T. Football is different now from when we were in college. When we were in college, the players that I went to school with, man, they were tomorrow's millionaires, but they was oodles and noodles and borrowed money from me to go to McDonald's. I had a little stash back then because I was getting paid going to church and traveling with the gospel play. So I had a little knot back in college,
Right.
but that ain't how it is now. These guys in the era of NIL, they are millionaires before they get to the NFL. And they don't mind letting you know they got a Rolls Royce. Look on Instagram, Rolls Royce, Rolex watches, and all of that.
Yeah.
The teams are looking at that. They're looking at that. When you got another guy like Cam Ward, who went number 1 overall, who drives a pickup truck to school every day, saving his money, and I come win. I ain't on social media. In fact, there was one instance when Tom Brady had to actually tell Shedeur, get off social media and get in the film room. And he's young. He'll learn that. I mean, you get a kid. Well, I ain't gonna say he grew up in money, but I was getting ready to say you get a kid who's never had money, but he's had money. Right. But you give a guy his own money like that, you're gonna get that. So I won't say it's necessarily his attitude, because when he locks in, he's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. But a lot of teams were scared away because of that, based on what I was told. But even still, he shouldn't have went in no 5th round now. I'm not going. He shouldn't have failed that far now. Good God.
Right.
He shouldn't have failed that far. Now, I thought he would actually go to Dallas because they like all that glitz and glamour. They like all that. They like all that.
Yeah. Janelle said the Steelers front office didn't want him.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't want. And now I could see that because they just picked up Aaron Rodgers. And then another thing that I forgot to leave out. Look at the quarterbacks who went before him. All of them were very talented quarterbacks. Even Tyler Shook, even though I don't think he should have went before Shedeur Sanders, the guy had a great Senior Bowl. He went and competed. He's about 6'5", 230, prototypical strong arm, can make all the throws. And then you look at the guy from Alabama, Jalen Milroe. This is a guy who has won big games. He's beaten Georgia and Kirby Smart in those defenses. He's led Alabama to the playoffs. He played under Nick Saban and started. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's gone on the road and beat Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, who will be a show enough, bona fide top pick in the 1st round in next year's draft. And then you look at Dylan Gabriel, who was Heisman Trophy runner-up. So all the quarterbacks ahead of him were actually good. They had better resumes. Dylan Gabriel, 3 different programs. This is the guy who started out at Central Florida, led them to a bowl, went to Oklahoma, knocked off Texas and Steve Sarkisian in the Red River Shootout, and beat the Ohio State Buckeyes this year, who were the national champions. So this guy's got a winning resume. He's got a winning resume. I get it. We love Shedeur, but look at the quarterbacks that went before him. And then you mentioned Cam Ward, who went number 1 overall. I mentioned how Shedeur played against Oregon. Well, Cam Ward against that same Oregon team went 24 for 38, passed for 438 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, teams are looking at that. Quarterback is a position you can't miss with, because if you miss, it can set you back 5-10 years. It can.
Yeah.
It can.
Wow.
Well, Sports Pastor, I want you to know, over on the Oak 93.5 FM page, they are going off in the comments. And so Tamara Robinson says, great information, Sports Pastor. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And Janice Santiago says, right. So you are spot on, and you're helping bring us ladies into the world, the inner workings of professional sports. So thank you so much.
Yes. And let me make it clear. I'm Team Shador. I think the guy is going to work out well. I just hope that Cleveland allows him to develop. He's not going to come in and do what we saw Jaden Daniels did with Washington. They don't have that type of setup. They don't. That's why I really wished that he had gone to Pittsburgh. Yeah, he's got better numbers. Janelle, but numbers can be misleading. Vinny Testaverde has better numbers than Troy Aikman and Terry Bradshaw. And they're Hall of Famers, and he's not. It's not always about the numbers. Not always about the numbers. I say that even with churches. Well, that church is packed. That don't mean he preaching the truth. That don't mean he preaching. They jam-packed in there, really. 900 people went to Guyana and drank Kool-Aid with Jim Jones. 900. So it don't necessarily mean that. Don't mean that. I think he'll be a good quarterback. And I think that he will benefit in Kevin Stefanski's system. But there's also a strong argument as to why those other quarterbacks that were drafted ahead of him. Jalen Milroe is going to be he's going to be the real deal. Wait, when the season starts, remember those names, because you're going to be like, where did I hear that name from? This kid can play. He can play. Cam Ward can play. And then Jackson Dart, that's another thing. Jackson Dart, who was with the New York Giants. The Giants, that's the one interview that everyone is talking about where things fell apart. He went to the New York Giants interview, from what I understand, with an entourage. That was a no-no, okay? That was a no-no. And in the middle of the interview, it was told to me that he checked his watch. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Really?
You cannot do that. And the Giants need a quarterback. They need a quarterback because they just gave up on Daniel Jones. Eli Manning has been retired for quite some time. They had to bring in Russell Wilson, who's about 38 years old. And then they brought in Jameis Winston, who is good when he's not throwing the ball to the other team. So they needed a quarterback. So instead of going with Shedeur Sanders, they went with Jackson Dart, who is one heck of a quarterback. He might start. Played in the system, a college pro style system at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. And where did Eli Manning go to college at? Ole Miss, the same place this guy's playing at. So there's a connection there. Yeah, he was in the Heisman. He was in the Heisman, but he hadn't beaten the top 20 team. He hadn't beaten the top 20 team. He has. If you're looking for a quarterback, forget all the stats. I can show you several quarterbacks who had great stats, but when it got to the NFL, they were not winners. You want to see how they're going to perform when the lights are brightest. You want to see how they're going to perform. Are they going to throw up over themselves? Tim Tebow, his stats were not good, but I tell you what, he was a winner. And even though he never won a Super Bowl, he beat Pittsburgh in that playoff game. Had no business winning that one.
That's my team.
I know. So you remember that game, don't you? When Tebow
I don't want to talk about that.
That's our team, Janelle.
yeah, Janelle's a Steeler. That's my sis. Me and Janelle go at it all the time. And Dart, yeah, he had a horrible camp, but Janelle, Dart is going to get the chance to develop. That's what I'm saying. Let Shedeur develop. Dart has Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in front of him. He does not have to come in and be the savior. That's why I'm praying. They do not expect Shedeur to come in and be the savior, which would have been the case had they picked him in the first round. He would have had to come in and be the savior and his first. And look at that division they're in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be playing against that Pittsburgh defense. Are you kidding me? Baltimore, are you kidding me? No, you're not getting. Listen, if Oregon is sacking you, Nebraska is sacking you, having a hard time getting away from that pressure, what in God's name is going to happen when Mike Tomlin set those dogs loose? TJ Watt and all those cats. You know, Justin Matabuke in Baltimore and Cincinnati. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. Just let the game develop. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine in Cleveland because of the situation that's there, because they had to pick in 5 quarterbacks. But let him develop. And I like that system. The West Coast offense, the quick throws. Now I know I'm talking football. Let me get back to the girls. Let me break it all the way down. It's a good fit for them, okay?
Thank you.
It's a good fit. It's a good fit for them. I think it is a good it's a good fit. It's going to be a good fit. It's going to be a good fit because that's my problem. Exactly. The line is terrible and they just lost Nick Chubb. But that's why I say let him develop. Cleveland he's not going to come in and light it up. Cleveland does not have him a running game. Nick Chubb just left and went to the Houston Texans. Let the guy develop. Don't put no pressure or expectations on him. And I think you're going to have one heck of a quarterback. Shador can play. I don't want you to mislead it. No, he can play. I'm just saying that you can make a solid argument as to why those other quarterbacks went before him in the draft. Because those were some good quarterbacks too. They both can be great. How about that? They both.
I love it. Well, listen, Pastor Raeford, you got to come back. You got to come back because we didn't even get through. We didn't even get to the good stuff. We got some more stuff we want to talk about.
Well, hey, have me on. Bring me on.
And you got some big stuff coming up though, right? You get ready to do something with the end. Can you talk about it?
Absolutely. We're getting ready. Like I said, we're getting ready to go on TV in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. God's Take with the sports pastor. We're going to be bringing everybody on. Listen, put the women and children to bed. We coming hard in the paint. We're going to have your favorite pastors, your favorite musicians, your favorite former athletes, your favorite coaches. We're going to have all of them on with the sports pastor. We're going to take away all of this social media chatter, and we're going to go face to face, hard in the paint, with the issues that they're talking about on social media, as it relates to Diddy parties, as it relates to Shador Sanders, as it relates to prophets sleeping with their members for 10 years. I ain't gonna mention no
talk
names.
about that.
We had that on the list too, Jay.
No.
Call me. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about it.
Hey, I'm here for all the smoke because one thing, I'm writing a book and I want to share this with your listeners. And when it's time, maybe we can come on and do a book reading. But the name of the book is going to be Things I Wish I Didn't See in Church.
Top seller.
And it's and in quotation, it says 50 years of data because I've been in church all my life. And the things that I have seen, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. If someone were to come up to me and say, I don't come to church because of this, I would tell them I understand. That's some of the things I saw. So we're going to dig into that. We're going to dig deep. We're going to dig deep. And Janelle on his sis, she going at me. She got ties to Ohio. I don't know why she doing that. She a Buckeye. She roll with Ohio State, but she don't roll with Cleveland. She like them Steelers.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm excited. Listen, we all about, like Janelle said, the good smoke over here. So we were a little messy with the relationship situation at the beginning of the show, but we took a turn. But Jay, I guess we have to do that when we don't have a sports pastor here. I don't know. I might have to peep in. Maybe have to peep in to make sure y'all repping the brothers. And let me leave. This another thing. I'm for Travis. Marry who you want. Marry who you want. I'm glad I'm just glad the boy married a woman, for God's sake. Let's just start right there. Because God knows. We know. Good point.
Now, y'all know now. Come on now.
Well, I want to go back to these Diddy parties. And listen, call us because we want to talk about it. Because one of the things, and I'm not going to give too much away of our next show, is how certain women trade their life for lifestyles. And so we need to get into that because we're idolizing lifestyles, not knowing the cost that it pays to be in that lifestyle. So we want to get into it.
JT, there's a scripture in Matthew when Jesus came out of the wilderness and Satan took him to the highest mountain. And he said, I'll give you all of this if you will just bow down and worship me. He said, bow down and worship me. There were two things. And I'm going to put this as diplomatic as I can on the air. And if you have me back, I'll break this down more in detail. He was asking Jesus to bow down and perform a sexual act. That's what he was doing. Yeah, exactly. Because that's part of satanic and Baal worship. That's what that is. So when you hear these Diddy parties, those things took place in the Bible. In exchange for degrading yourself sexually, in exchange for doing that, there's great gain on earth, not in the heavens, but on earth. So a lot of these people who were at those parties and a lot of those people who thought that they got the better end of the deal, you're going to always get the short end of the stick. And rest assured, even as it relates to hip hop, from singers, from R&B, even preachers. Yes, even preachers. That bill's going to come due. You know why it's going to come due? Because Satan's still on that mountain. He's still on that mountain in 2025. You want to be famous? Y'all want y'all podcast to blow up? Come on. Come on. Come on. And that's why Jesus said, God said, what does it profit a man to gain the world but lose his soul? It just ain't worth it. Thanks, Rhonda. It just ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. So yeah, I have some details to those Diddy parties, and maybe if you come back on, I'll share my own personal experience.
Listen, you need to go ahead and check your book calendar right now, because you can't leave us clutching pearls and standing here in this position, and because we're clutching them right now.
You
have to come back.
It's real.
Have to come back.
It's
and
real.
Rhonda, you're correct. Lifestyles can take you places you never wanted to go and make you stay longer than you ever wanted to stay.
Preach, Rhonda.
That's preach right there.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We just have to decide. God wants us blessed. He wants us blessed. And there's a way to get those things without degrading yourself. Yeah. And it's in Matthew. First seek ye the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, all that is right, all that is just, all that is virtuous. And all those things will be added. You don't have to twerk on the devil's lap like Lil Nas did. You don't have to come out half naked. You don't have to sleep with 20 guys in one night to get a record deal. You don't have to do that. You can do this thing God's way and still be blessed.
Well, hey, on that note, we have to go, and you are exactly right, sports pastor. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. This was part A, y'all. Part B is coming up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And what you and listen, when you bring me back on, put Lady T on, Rick James. Lady T is stepped in.
That's right there.
And it's amazing. Let me get this in before I leave. This is one of the things I want to talk about. Speaking of Rick James, I talked about 1969 earlier to show you how that system worked. Yes. I know we all grew up. We heard about Helter Skelter and the Sharon Tate murders. Guess who was there? Rick James. I'll be back to tell you that story. He was there in 1969 when all that was going on.
Wow.
I'll tell you about it.
Y'all.
I'll tell you about it.
You heard it here first from the sports pastor. So
you got that right.
Get the rest. Thank you again, Lester. Thank you so much. Thank you, Candid Conversation listeners, for staying in there with us for a whole hour. We appreciate you. We'll see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Right
love y'all, sis. Be blessed. Pray for me. All right. Peace.
Peace. Bye, y'all. Thank you.
All right.